Hello. Music is something deeply personal to everyone, with how everyone consumes it and how it affects them. Though millions enjoy listening to songs, my friends Adit and Navansh here live and breathe it. Adit is a student in SME Mumbai and is an electric guitar player, and Navansh here is a fellow SCMS student who, along with Adit, is a music connoisseur. Our topic of discussion today is lyrics and identity. Now, I would like to ask each of you, what's your song? Like your song, that one song that defines what music means to you.
Navansh, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So basically, it would be maybe क्या फर्क पड़ेगा by Peter Gart. Mostly for the reason कि मतलब क्या ही फर्क पड़ेगा, ठीक है? Everything turns into dust. The lyricism of that whole song is कि like you will get gifts, you will achieve everything, and then you will turn into dust. So basically, that was the gist of it. So uh, I think it is
Okay,
the song
okay.
for me.
I agree. Okay. Yeah, what about you, Adit?
For me, it would have to be Projector by Eden.
Yeah.
So the thing about the song is that it came out in November of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't know if it's because of the time it came out that it's very important to me because that time was very influential and it like that time had a huge impact because a lot of things were happening at the time in my life, or maybe it's just because of the song itself. I don't know. I think it could be both of those factors, but I feel like whatever that song is about, the vibe, the lyrics, especially the lyrics, is how I feel 24/7.
Damn. So the lyrics do shape identity, I feel.
Yes, they
So
definitely
talking
do.
about identity, let's talk more about the artist you mentioned, the artist's identity. Like, what do you think is the artist's vibe, and how do you think it shapes their music personally?
About of Eden.
Yeah, yeah. How like Eden's overall vibe? How do you think that vibe of the person shapes the music? And like for
All
Peter
right.
Cat as well.
Okay, so if we're talking about Eden's musical identity in general, uh, I'd say each album is very different.
Mm-hmm.
The first album was very, very pop. It was like like the song, right? There's a song in his album called End Credits.
Yeah.
That song hit, I think, top 100 Billboard charts. I feel like
Oh,
that
damn.
is one of the most listened to tracks ever. And that was his
Sorry.
first album, by the way.
Yeah.
He after he made that album, he made it very clear that he does not want to delve into pop music anymore because
Mm-hmm.
he initially started as someone who made EDM music. There were a lot of Call of Duty edits that had his initial music that he made. But
Yeah.
when he came out with the second album, it was less of like there were a few songs that were very pop, but there were also songs where he experimented with a lot of, I guess you could call it alternative music.
Yeah.
There was a lot of electronic music involved. Um, then he came out with his album, his third album called Vertigo. That album, I feel like to this date is loved by all of the critics around the globe. That album ha like, okay, so as I mentioned, the first two albums, they had a very pop vibe. They had a very light, easygoing vibe.
Mm-hmm.
This album was very heartbreaking. It had, like, in a lot of songs, he used these voice memos
Yeah.
that he used a lot of voice memos that were very heartbreaking to listen to. Like those voice memos, you could like it was a girl talking, and he later mentions in a lot of his interviews that these were memos from his ex-girlfriend, and some were just some samples from movies. But the entirety of that, the entirety of production of that album was very, very sad and tragic. That
Mm-hmm.
same vibe went on with the next two albums he had, but I think he topped it with Vertigo. The other, like the next album was very similar to Vertigo, but it was less, I'd say, like less intricate with respect to production. And his latest album was, I think you think too much of me. I'm sorry. Uh, I don't remember the exact name, but his newest album was completely experimental. Like he put a techno song in it. He put I think an almost like pop song in it. Many different genres in that new album. But
Yeah.
after Vertigo, all of his and the entirety of his vibe has went towards tragedy and just melancholy in general.
All right, all right. So that being your favorite artist, do you think that reflects upon you as well?
I don't know. I think you would have to ask my friends.
Yeah. Okay. No, once you said you mentioned a Peter Gadd song. Would you like elaborate on like what do you think their vibe is and how like that affects their music?
Uh, Peter Gadd's wife. Yeah. So what I basically think of Peter Gadd is like the notions they speak about, like what they write their music about lyrically is basically very mainstream things. Okay, it is not something very different. It is something they write. They may write about love. They may write about anything, right? But those are common notions. Those are things repackaged only. But
Mm-hmm.
repackaged things in a distinctively unique Indian sound. Like
Yeah.
this sound is very unique. If you think about this sound, what is it? Is it psychedelic rock? Is it alternative? Is it electronic? What is it? They say it's it's a blend of gypsy jazz and something like something, but it is very distinctive, very distinctive. Like when you start listening to Peter Gadd, the sound you cannot put it in a genre, right?
Yeah.
You cannot put it into any genre. So that uniqueness tells you their identity of what they are, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like they use too many retro samples also, and they use modern sounds. So retro samples and modern sounds, right? So
Yeah.
it creates a very pleasurable blend. When you listen to it, it's just a vibe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's very interesting. Um, like just SE rapid fire, like nothing too much related to the interview, but like just wanna ask, like, can you guys name some more songs from the artists that you guys listen to? Just
So okay, in his first album, uh, and like Vertigo specifically, Vertigo, he talked about this word a lot called future bound.
mm,
So in that album, the recurring theme of what future bound meant was that he like End Credits and Vertigo, like the both of those albums. Uh, Future bound. What do you think future bound means? Like you tell me. Like what does it mean according to you?
like bound by the future, like almost like
Yeah. So it's basically you're
enslaved
trying
by
to
time.
say yeah you're trying to say that you're tied to the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the entirety of that album and the next album and the next album, what it conveys is that uh, you're not like the word future bound, you're supposed to twist its meaning.
All right.
Rather than you being tied to the future, your future is tied to you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like if now that you mention it, so I got a tattoo. I don't know if you can read it,
Yeah,
but
that
it
says
means
future
future
bound.
bound.
Yeah.
Now, for me, as like in my identity, I was very moved by it, by the concept of being future bound.
Mm-hmm.
He basically talks about how every second, every moment, we're we're running towards the future.
Mm-hmm.
As each second passes, you are moving towards the future. You are future bound.
Yeah.
But like I got this tattooed in my arm, right? Like to
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
like on top of my veins. There's a very unconventional place to get a tattoo, but I really wanted to get it here to basically signify the fact that my future comes from my hands, like my own actions. Now, if we're talking about like now while we're on this topic, then there's this also the recurring theme of Greek mythology, and he keeps on mentioning this word kairos, Kairos.
Yeah.
I also have a tattoo of that. I don't know if you can see. So it's
Yeah.
kairos,
Yeah. It's visible.
and there's this. You can see this compass and this like watch, right? It's half faded and it's
Yeah.
pointing towards Kairos. What that means is that Kairos, is the youngest son of Zeus. He is someone in Greek mythology that is the god of the perfect time, like the perfect moment, the opportune time.
Mm-hmm.
He is someone that is always running. He's always someone that is, he has two flocks, right? And he's always balancing those flocks. Now, while he's doing that, not even Zeus himself can catch him.
Yeah.
That I feel like he's just a metaphor for the fact that you can never, ever reach the perfect time, like the opportune time. And but at the same time, there's always someone in Greek mythology trying to catch Kairos. It's basically a whole metaphor in itself that you like an ideal human is someone that is always chasing the right time, that is always future bound. So
Then it all ties together, yeah.
yeah, it does.
Yeah. Navansh, if we're talking about like recurring themes and concepts and songs, like I would rather like
Yeah.
you to talk about like what do you think are the recurring themes and concepts in the artists you listen to? Like, is there like an underlying, like how Adit mentioned, do you think there's like some sort of connection between all the artists you listen to, recurring themes, concepts in the music you listen to, in the lyricism?
Recurring themes in the music I listen to, uh, on a personal level, I would believe there are, when you're listening to music, so you can list, there's a variety of music that's available, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
there's thousands of genres, there's thousands of themes, and everything. So
Yeah,
basically, in a personal sense, I believe that if a person is listening to something, then it is catchy to him. It is eye catchy. It is lyrically catchy. It is uh, catchy in
musically.
sounds, right?
Yeah,
Musically catchy, not musically, but like vocally catchy. So
yeah, yeah.
when you're talking about recurring themes, so when we talk, it should be mentally catchy also. So a
Mm-hmm.
person is all, or a person always tends to listen to recurring themes only. Like he would prefer it. It would be a comforting thing for him, right? And music inherently is comforting to you. So
Mm-hmm.
for me personally, if you're talking about a recurring theme, it would be maybe loser core.
It would be what?
Loser core.
All right. Why do you think that is the recurring theme that you fall back to every time you listen to music? Like,
Maybe because just due to the fact that life is inherently tough. And
yeah.
when you're listening to people who are like living a tough life and they're still trying, there's a glimmer of hope, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're listening to people who are like striving for survival,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you're striving for survival musically, so it is very catchy.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now I would like to talk about like since we've talked about music, since we've talked about identity, I want to know like everyone's like relationship of consuming music is very personal. Some people listen to it very casually, but I know the two of you, and I know
Hmm.
that you both are both like enjoy music thoroughly. Like both listen to music like and have been listening to since a long time. So where do you think that convergence point, that nexus point exists in your life, where music and like lyrics and all like converge with your identity, your life? Where do you think, if you can put it into some words, like where do you think the nexus point lies in your life between music and your like life, the lyrics and your
Okay.
identity?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna tell you something. Uh, Anyone I meet for the first time, or whether it is my friend, or people just that are very vigilant or very observant,
Mm-hmm.
they always point out that the vibe that I give off is someone that is just like has that deep underlying sense of sadness.
Mm-hmm.
It's never that I am sad in front of them. It's never that I don't think I'm ever sad in front of them or anything. Just that my vibe, I feel like because of the type of music I listen to is so much related to, I mean, just the fact that I listen to that music, I feel like I have a lot of mannerisms that mimic that.
Makes
If I
sense.
if I if like the music, like Eden, right? The theme that he has, I feel like I have adopted it into my entirety of behavior, behavior, and just mannerisms in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree to
yeah,
your statement. I feel like even like I've never really had like a very distinctive like the artist I listen to or like one like genre of music that I prefer. I never really like I've made playlists, but I don't really like regularly make them. I usually steal them from a lot of people that I like that I think I like their
Yeah,
music taste. So like I feel like me as a person like I don't know like at least I can't put my personality into like words or I feel like it's quite like I
yeah,
say बिखरी हुई है and like essentially my music taste भी जैसे काफी
yeah.
बिखरा हुआ है so I feel like that is
Basically,
काफी
your music
relatable.
taste is a spectrum of your friends.
Yeah. So
That is also
Navansh, what is your take on that? Like where do you think your nexus point is when it comes to like music and your life converging? It
like
can be a
the
moment, it
thing
can be
about
like something, yeah.
music is like you uh say that I am a music connoisseur, right? So
Mm-hmm.
basically, what I actually think about that is basically when I like everyone has inherently is listening to Bollywood music because that is what comes up first, right? So basically,
Mm-hmm.
we in India see a lot of Bollywood movies, and the talk when you are a teenager and everything is about Bollywood music. It is the vibe set everywhere, parties, functions everywhere. So it is just Bollywood music, right? So then I was very active on the internet. So I found people uh, who had a very elite music taste, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
found them elite because of their music taste.
Yeah.
Uh, I find it very problematic right now, the as a person, because like when you talk about more genres, exploring more genres. So when I first started it, it was just a sense of me to like just taste music eliteness and how it looked like. Now that because of that, now started listening to a lot of genres like shoegaze, black pop, black metal, everything. And now
Mm-hmm.
when I listen to it, maybe I don't know, I do not find the eliteness now. I think music is personal to everyone and it is a very
Yeah.
subjective. Okay, even if you listen to anything, there is no elite music, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I find that. But what I find is the more you explore, the more music you listen, you tend to articulate your life better,
Yeah.
right? So there are a few emotions that are still in the shell. There are a few emotions that you want to convey, but you cannot never articulate them, right? And music, sounds, everything articulates it. You're listening to a sound, and that at that point you're feeling the same emotion that you have always felt, but you relate it to the sound, right? When you're
Yeah.
listening to the lyrics, it is in some way articulating your personal life. The musician who has made it is living your life or was living a part of your life, a glimmer of your life at one point, and he has articulated it. And so now, even though you did know, now you know it very thoroughly that what you are experiencing at the moment. So,
Mm-hmm.
music, in the sense, has become for me to articulate myself on a personal level. It is just a medium, it has just become a
Yeah.
medium.
That is very
I would
interesting to
like to
hear.
like add a few things though.
Yeah.
The thing is, if we're directly talking about, like, if we're directly addressing your topic, it's lyrics and identity.
Mm,
I think, like, for example, I have another tattoo that
mm,
reads, dodged the draft, can't dodge. I don't think you guys can read it, but basically it reads, dodged the draft, can't dodge the war.
Yeah.
So this is from a song by Vampire Weekend. Now, when I heard that lyric, like, whenever I listen to songs, by the way, I have this habit that I'll read through the lyrics. Like, yeah, it's a thing. Like, if I'm listening to a song, I'm supposed to read through the lyrics. And it's just that once I read the lyrics, the song just hits. And there are a few lyrics, for example, this line, like, I got it tattooed. it means that like even if you try to run from what you're supposed to do, it won't change the fact that you're still supposed to do it. Then there's this other line as well. This is from my song that you asked, Projector. It reads, I was light years ahead of me. Thoughts in
Mhm.
my head don't disappear.
Yeah,
Uh, like this is also something that means this is something that reflects of how I think about things. Like a lot of lyrics from these like scattered songs, they I feel like have shaped a lot of how I think. Like
Yeah,
my entire cognitive process has been shaped by a lot of lyrics by whether it was either Eden, Vampire Weekend, or some individual songs. For example, there are a few songs by the Strokes or Albert
yeah.
Hammond Jr. Like a lot of songs that I have listened to have affected how I think or how I
Yeah.
deal with situations in life today.
yeah,
So basically, if I want to add to what Adit said,
yeah,
like
yeah.
there is a saying that you are what you consume, right? So
Mm-hmm.
basically, like he was talking about his strokes phase that there was a time he used to listen to. So I personally also had a similar phase like that. And like uh when we're talking about you are what you consume, so at that time when you're listening to too much strokes, you're listening to too much alternative rock, it's too much mansplaining. So you personally also become a mansplainer. So I had that phase. So I do believe in the saying that you are what you consume.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It changes up the vibe of like how you live and how you perceive, I think, because like
Yeah,
I
the
feel
music
like
that
exactly.
you
I feel
listen
like
to.
the Strokes is boy music straight up. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that is
Yeah,
something that boys listen to, or like when I had that phase, ki, "Aure, f- girls, bro," or like whatever.
yeah.
And
Any alternative indie, matlab, alternative rock music is just what
specifically,
mansplaining.
I would say specifically, like out of all of the bands, like at least the mainstream bands in rock, the Strokes
Mm,
are distinctively boy music.
Yeah,
mm.
I can agree. Yeah.
But if I like,
Like their discography, like listen, sir, their song, like the album, is this it? Okay, their album
mm,
is this it? It
mm,
has this this sound where they don't really care about much of anything, but
mm,
they're still very narcissistic in general. So
yeah,
like they know that their life is crashing, but they're like, yeah, I'm still the best. Or like whatever I'm doing, I know that's best.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
the entire vibe is very narcissistic in general.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, matlab, if we're talking about the Strokes, like anyone who's like the Strokes in that genre, they're all the same. Like if you're talking about Arctic Monkeys, if you talk about the Smiths, everything is like mansplaining music only.
If you're talking about the mansplaining aspect of it,
Mm,
for sure, yes. But when you mentioned loser core, the Smiths is
mm.
more loser core music than it is
Yeah,
music.
Smiths is more incel music too.
And
Yeah, yeah.
Arctic Monkeys is not music. Like there are a few songs that I would say for sure, but Arctic Monkeys I feel like is a lot of it's a
Like,
mix. Like
like
some songs are very like I don't know
Yeah,
some
it is a
West
mix. It is a
very
mix.
I'll tell you why I believe in that because if we're talking about Arctic Monkeys, so like if we are talking about the self-titled album, right? The AM album. So everybody listens to that.
no. I feel like that is just a generic music album. I feel like everyone listens to that. But
Yeah,
if we're talking about what boys listen to, it's mostly rap.
yeah, agreed.
Because rap as a genre just consists of a lot of misogyny and a
Hmm.
shit ton of more mansplaining than what rock has.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, yeah. Anyways, I'd like to continue the interview, and like we're almost heading the end, but I would like to go on a little bit different line of questioning now. Still very much relevant to lyrics and identity, though. Each song and its lyrics are very inherently reflective of what the artist thinks about and their identity as well. Now, many times an artist can be problematic in nature and can do things which you personally may not fully condemn. So, can one really separate the art from the artist? Adding on to that, before you guys answer, do you think your own identity is put upon question when an artist you love listening to, who might shape your identity in a lot of ways, does something which is objectively wrong in nature? This is like an open ended question to both of you, like both of you can discuss and answer.
Can you break down your question? Like, what do you want me to answer first?
Like,
Because I feel like,
firstly, like, can you really separate the art from the artist? Like, we can take the example of Kanye West. Like, if he does something very problematic, but you love his music, do you think, like, firstly, can you separate the music from him as a person?
how
Like,
I listen to
yeah.
music is, for example, if I'm listening to a song right now, in
Mm-hmm.
my head, I'm not thinking what the artist is doing, why the artist has written that. I am imagining myself in the situation of the song.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I consume music is I just take the art and try and implement it in my life. Like
Mm-hmm.
like I'm just gonna mention, like for example, every album, right? How I mentioned November 2019 was a very influential time in my life. When Projector came out, I was like, what the hell, bhai? Does this dude know exactly what I'm going through? The
Mm-hmm.
next album, when the next album came out, I was like, how does he know exactly what I'm going through? So it's a very weird pattern, but every time he has come out with his album, in my head, it feels like he knows exactly what I'm going through. And I feel that way because, first of all, his lyrics are very, very poetic in nature and very metaphorical. So you can put it into a lot of situations very layered. But I can do that. I can understand that. I can think in that way because I put myself in the situation of the song or of the music that I listen to. I
Mm-hmm.
take the art and completely forget about the artist. That's a very
Okay.
secondary thing.
Yeah. That's your take. Navanch, what do you think?
I would have a very contrasting take on it. Like, I believe that you cannot really separate the art from the artist, to be honest. Like, inherently, what the artist is making, what the art is producing, it deeply reflects what his
The artist thinks
what
about.
he socially is as a person, right? So
Yeah.
we're talking about Strokes, and like Adit was saying, it was boy music, right? So when you talk about the identity of Strokes of who they are, so they are rich, boarding brats or billionaires, right? So that is where the inherently the narcissism, boyishness comes from, right? So that is
Mm-hmm.
what their music is about. Where we can take any Indian example too. If you talk about Raga, so so his music inherently has a lot of misogyny. So he's from
Misogyny.
Haryana,
Yeah.
right?
I not connecting the dots here, but I see what you're saying.
It
Since
just
you,
tells about the patriarchal culture Haryana has in general and how
yeah,
it commodifies women. So his music commodifies women. So you cannot really separate the artist from his art because inherently the art he's producing is what is an is a depiction of him. It's a representation of him only. But what I would say is that once the art is created,
mm-hmm,
once the art is created, it is independent from its creator. So supposedly, if you release an album of it, or if you make a painting today, and 10, 10 years down the line, you turn problematic, you turn fucked up, right? So your art that you produced 10 years before is different from you, what you are 10 years down the line, right?
that
So
makes sense.
when it is created, the persona, it like what you can say is like a hurdle आ जाता है वहां पे. तो
Mm-hmm,
वो उसका उतना ही पर्सोना डिपिक्ट करता है जहां पे उसने वो क्रिएट करी है टाइमलाइन में. वो
mm-hmm,
टाइमलाइन वहीं तक है. उसके आगे की टाइमलाइन तुम नहीं बता सकते. वो कुछ
makes
और भी.
sense,
इट
makes
कैन
sense.
डाउन ट्रैक, इट कैन अप ट्रैक.
Mm-hmm.
दैट इज इट. हाँ.
Yeah, it was a
But
really
it
fun
depends on
discussion,
how
guys.
you see the music, right? So
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're listening to a song while thinking, okay, why has this artist written this? Or why, then you can actually delve into the artist's psyche. But I don't know, maybe I'm just too self-centered that whenever I listen to a song, I just
Yeah,
imagine myself in that situation. So it's like when I consume their music, मैं इतना सोचता नहीं हूँ. I don't think too much
yeah,
about who the artist is. But
um,
you're absolutely right. If you're looking art objectively, which is not the right way to look at art, but if you do look at art objectively, you can understand who the artist is. That
yeah,
is something I feel like you were right about.
yeah. No, I just like if if you take like it cannot be a binary approach when you're talking about separating the art from the artist. There is suppose it is a very vague question, right? So the approaches are gonna be very contrasting with everyone, right? But if you are talking in a personal sense, like if I come across any artist, if I come across any pop artist, any mainstream pop artist, it may be Mitski, it may be Taylor Swift, it may be Lana Del Rey. So what Lana talks about is intimacy and drugs, right? Like if you listen to her albums and if you uh, know where she belongs from. So it matches. Like her persona matches with her albums. When you're talking about Taylor Swift, her persona matches with her albums. When you're talking about Mitski, okay, Mitski tells you to separate her art from her artist. So she recently gave an interview where she said that a lot of people associate my music with sad girl music, which I inherently am not. And I want people to not take me as a sad girl music core person, right?
Hmm.
So, but like when she wrote it, she agrees to the fact that she was a sad girl. That is what the art came out. So, like you cannot separate the art from the artist. But once it is created, like supposedly, if I am today, I am a SoundCloud rapper and I create a rap, and it might consist of misogyny. It might consist of hard lyrics and everything, right? 10 years down the line, I am a father, and you show that rap to my daughter. So she'll obviously separate the art from the artist, right?
Of course.
Because I would not be what I am right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. This was a really insightful discussion, though. I think both sides have like very valid points to say, and like I completely make sense of all of it. So yeah, I do think like lyrics and
Yeah, I'm
identity are
I'm
tied
I'm thinking
together.
of starting a SoundCloud career as a rapper.
As a
I will
rapper,
be as a
Yeah.
rapper. ठीक है.
Hmm.
Good luck with that. I would love to listen to what you come up with.
Yeah.
I am
I
sure
think
my teacher would too.
I wanna articulate about life in Haryana, right? Like,
genre, what would be the genre?
yeah, like, have you heard of Sufjan Stevens? So he wrote about Illinois, like he belonged from Illinois. So he wrote
Yeah,
about mythical stories of Illinois and what happened in Illinois. Like, uh, there was this killer crown, John Wayne Gacy Jr. He wrote about him. So I
yeah.
wanna personally do that with Haryana. Like
I
the
completely support
mythological
that.
stories
I
of Haryana, the
completely
misogyny of
support
Haryana,
that.
the culture of Haryana, the killers of Haryana, everything.
I support that. Yeah, anyways, thank you. That was a very good
That
question.
was
Like
lovely.
that was a very
I'm
good idea.
Yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to Navan's debut. Uh, Anyways, that is it for this conversation and interview or podcast, whatever you want to call it. It was super fun talking to you guys. Yeah, I hope you guys liked it too.
Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool.